Hey guys, thanks for checking out Quick Sessions Podcast. My name is Garrett Terrio, coming to you from Houston, Texas, inside Timberline Fitness Studio. Today we are talking about the post-workout meal. Last podcast we talked about the pre-workout meal. Now on to what most people consider the most important part. It's the post-workout. Now there's two things I will touch on. The post-workout meal after you lift weights and the forgotten post-workout meal after you do cardio. I'm going to start with the cardio because that's the one where I hear the most of I don't have an appetite after I run. And there is a biological reason for that. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but something in your body when you have an elevated heart rate for a long period of time suppresses your hunger. I forget which chemicals it is or anything like that. Nothing a quick Google search couldn't find for you. But anyway, the biggest thing with cardio, number one, make sure you get a post-workout meal. Just because you're not hungry doesn't mean you shouldn't eat. I know it's tempting because odds are if you're doing cardio, it's to try to lose weight. And you might be thinking, well, this is great. I'm not even hungry. I just burned tons of calories. Don't let it fool you because you'll pay for it the next day at your next workout. Because if your goal is to lose weight or lose body fat, odds are you're about to do another workout in the near future. So you don't want that workout to suffer just because you decided to wait and eat after your cardio. Now, you'll eventually get hungry. And the last thing you want to do is overeat, which can easily happen whenever you're starving, right? So you may as well just get a proper small meal after you run or bike or swim or whatever it is. Now, number one thing you got to do is replenish the fluids. You lose electrolytes, water, you got to get them back in there. So water's the number one thing you should do after. After you run and stretch, drink plenty of water. Second thing you want is some fast-acting carbohydrates. You want to replenish those glycogen stores, which are very depleted after you do an endurance type of cardio activity. And if you listen to the last podcast, you already know what the fast-acting carbs are. You got your fruits, your oatmeal, that kind of stuff. That's some people drink chocolate milk, drink a Gatorade, anything like that works. But they also have nowadays, I don't want to call it a protein shake, but it's a recovery shake. Recoverite's a big brand that I know we have here at Timberline, but I'm sure there's plenty of other ones. I think Goo might make their own, or Hammer Strength makes their own. No, Hammer Strength makes Recoverite, I'm sorry. But I think Goo might also have their own version, even though they're more of an intra-workout supplement. I think they have their version of the post-workout carbohydrate. And of course, an energy bar is great. Gatorade makes a good one. And having protein after your cardio session is not a bad thing, but you really want to focus on the carbs. They are much more important because it's not that you put your muscles through a ton of dynamic muscle damage, right? They've been feeding off glycogen the whole time. There's not a ton of muscle protein breakdown. So it's more important to get the carbs in post-run than it is the protein. I'd say get a little bit of protein in there because I try to get a little bit of protein in all the time. But it's definitely not essential, right? It's definitely more essential to get those carbohydrates in. So there's cardio. That's out the way. Now the weights. This is the big one where the post-workout meal is a tradition, right? You always hear about, got to get your protein shake in right after you lift, within 30 minutes, within 45 minutes, whatever it is. The anabolic window, they call it. And while I think there's some merit to that, the more I read, the more I learn, and the more I experiment with my own eating, it's important to get it after your workout for sure, for the reasons I'm about to go over, but it doesn't always have to be at the volume that was once previously believed. It's more accepted now that as long as you have a well-balanced day of eating, that's more important than just making sure you load up after your workout. That being said, if you're trying to gain muscle, your post-workout meal is your most important. Now, it shouldn't be your only very important meal because a few hours later you got to eat again, right? That meal also has to be very important. So I don't want to minimize too much, but as far as the people that I train and how I feel, if you get a really hard workout in and you have a lackluster post-workout meal, you're just going to be more sore. You're going to have less energy. You'll feel it in your strength or your lack thereof. So it is very important, especially for those that are trying to build muscle. So why is it important? Let me break down how it actually works when you lift weights. So you walk into the gym, you've done your pre-workout meal like the last podcast said, and you go in, you're ready, you're fueled up, and you start hitting the weights. And let's pretend you're hitting them hard, right? We should always be trying to give good effort in the gym. You're hitting them hard. Well, the muscle is fueled by glycogen. That's the energy source. to cause these contractions within your muscle. And you're always draining glycogen as you're lifting weights. Also, as the glycogen is getting depleted through muscular contraction, those contractions are also, damaging the muscle. It's causing these micro explosions in your body, and these proteins are just breaking down. You're breaking down protein and energy when you're lifting weights. So now muscle proteins are breaking down, glycogen is getting depleted. We've got to fill it all back up. The reason we have to fill it all back up is to stop the muscle protein breakdown, make it stop. We got to increase our protein synthesis so that our body can absorb all the nutrients and all the protein. And we want to restore our glycogen stores, right? We want to refuel the muscles so that the next day or the day after, you can go right back in there, right? So that's the three things. You stop the soreness from the muscle protein breakdown. You increase the amount of protein you can handle, the amount of nutrition that you can consume, and you restore your energy source, your glycogen. Glycogen is a fancy word for carbohydrates. It's different than a pure carbohydrate. The nutrition nerds will get me on that one, but they also know what I'm talking about. So how much protein should you drink after your workout? My rule of thumb is about 50 grams at the end of each workout. Now I'm 200 plus pounds. That is the reason it's 50 grams of protein. Also, I have been working out since I can remember, right? I have moved a lot of weight. I have a high percentage of lean muscle mass, right? I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm a pretty broad guy, pretty thick guy. I can handle more protein than an average person. And what I'm calling an average person is go to the gym 2-3 times a week. You're of average BMI, average muscle tone. I'm gonna be able to absorb more than you. That's just the way it is. And someone bigger than me can absorb more than me. I mean, some guys get 75 grams of protein at the end of each workout because they can handle it. Also, the more protein you consume, the higher your levels of protein absorption become. So if you are, let's say, $175, and you try to drink just as much protein as me throughout a day, including post-workout, you're going to kind of waste some of that protein in the beginning. But as you keep going, your body will become, it's getting bigger from the weight training. So therefore, the muscles that have gotten bigger through hypertrophy are able to absorb more protein. So then your body's going to stop storing it as fat or creating waste, and it's going to actually absorb that amount of protein. No one can tell you exactly how much protein it should be. There's recommendations all over the map, but no one's going to be able to tell you exactly how much. So for me, for the sake of this podcast, I'm telling you I do 50 grams. And the reason I do 50 grams is because it's about a quarter of my body weight in grams of protein. And I'll try to get a quarter of my body weight of grams of protein right after my workout so that those amino acids can go to work and save my muscles, because I know I'm going to be lifting again tomorrow or doing some type of explosive activity. If I'm not lifting, I'm running. Most of the time they're on the same day, but I would say the 4 or 5 days a week that I lift, I need to be ready because I'll go pretty heavy. I always try to explode through every rep. There's no going through the motions with me, nor should there be with anybody. If you're going to be in the gym, you may as well make it count. And that's about it with protein. It's the amino acids in protein help rebuild muscle, stop the breakdown, and just consuming the protein allows your body to absorb more protein. Moving on to carbs. So we got 50 grams of protein, bam. The carbs need to be about the same. Some people will say eat more carbs, and depending on your body type, you may need to have a lot more carbs than protein. Maybe you should do 30 grams of protein and 60 grams of carbs. I would say do some experimenting, see what makes you feel better, but it's important to get the carbs with your protein because when you ingest them at the same time, what it does is increase your insulin sensitivity, your secretion of insulin. And what the insulin does is it helps shuttle the nutrients to your muscles, and I'm calling it glycogen synthesis. It helps the carbs get in there to refuel your body, to replenish those glycogen stores that you have ideally completely drained. So that's why you want them at the same time. And you want to get them pretty close to your workout, but even with some studies even say within 2 hours, you could still get plenty of nutrients. Of course, closer is better because your body's still primed up, blood flow's still going, metabolism's still up. The closer to your workout, the better. So let's say after my workout, I'll keep it about 1-to-1. I'll do about 50 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs. And one thing I will say that took me a while to learn, I'd heard it, but I didn't necessarily buy into it until I started doing it and feeling it, is I would try to avoid the carbs. I'd try to keep the carbs lower because in my mind, carbs are the enemy. It's kind of like when I talked about eating oatmeal. I thought just a whole meal of carbs, that's just the enemy. You can't do that because the rest of your day, you're going to have carbs. And you may as well save your carb limit, what I'll call it, for when they ultimately come anyway. Don't buy into that. You need the carbs right after so your body can actually use them and not just store them. So don't shy away from adding the carbs even if you're trying to lose weight. But like I said, you don't have to be me. You don't have to do 50 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs. You can do 20 grams of protein and 20 grams of carbs. I don't know you. If I train someone, I have a better idea of what they can handle. But even then, I don't really know. On the safe side, I would say start low and then increase. And if you have to cut one out, sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have protein and carbs available, lean towards carbs because that will replenish and it'll help with the muscle soreness too. Not as well as protein, but I was in a situation a while back where carbs was the only thing I had no protein. So I worked out and just ate a cup of oatmeal after, maybe a cup and a half, can't remember. But it happens. So carbs really are the most important. The number one most important, as good as protein sounds when it comes to lifting weight, you gotta get your carbohydrates in. That'll do a good job of keeping the muscles healthy and keeping them ready to go. Now on to fats. Fats are not essential post-workout. The reason a lot of people shy away from fats after is because they say it slows down nutrition absorption. That's kind of one of those old wives' tales. Like they said you can't work out too young because it'll stunt your growth. That was in the 70s. Nowadays people are smarter. They understand, hey, that's a whole bunch of BS. There's nothing really to back it up. And just like this with avoiding the fats after your workout, it's a bunch of BS. There's no proof that it slows down nutrition absorption. In fact, I would say add some fats to your post-workout because good fats are kind of hard to come by, right? You have nuts, fish, avocados, and those are kind of the main fats people use. I like to throw a scoop of almond butter or peanut butter into mine. And while it may not add too much as far as nutrition value, I like it, right? And when has having a balanced meal not been good, right? So that's trying to let a little common sense come through with that one. So I know what you're thinking. Garrett, what do you do post-workout? Well, ideally, when I'm done with the workout, I get 2 scoops of protein, I get about a cup of oats, and a tablespoon of almond butter. Put it in the blender, mix it up, 50 grams of protein, 50 or 60 grams of carbs, 10 grams of fat. I really just like the taste of it and assume that good fats are called good fats for a reason. I'm sure it'll help. So we're looking at about a 700 calorie meal post-workouts. Ton of protein, plenty of carbs, which has fiber in it also. Remember, we want that fiber. And some peanut butter. Big meal, but it's post-workout. It's when your body's most ready to use it. So you don't store very much of it as excess unless you truly eat too much, right? But for my body, I feel like 50 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs is ideal. Now, if you don't have a shake, there's plenty of other stuff that you can eat, right? You can get some grilled chicken and some vegetables, eggs and avocados, salmon sweet potato, tuna and crackers, if that's all you have, right? Add, some fruit to it, some bananas, cottage cheese. What's another one? Hummus with pita chips, rice, quinoa, get some multigrain bread with peanut butter. Those are some meals that are a good idea. Not all of them have a ton of protein, but it has the good carbs, it has good food that you need to help rebuild those muscles and refill the energy. As far as which carbs to eat, fruits are going to be great. Rice, oatmeal, potato, pasta, green vegetables, sweet potatoes. For endurance, some people love chocolate milk. I don't drink it personally. I'd rather get a Gatorade or just the natural sugars from my protein shake. Then as far as proteins, like I said, it doesn't have to be protein powder. You can get a protein bar, chicken, beef, salmon, tuna, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. I know it's hard to eat that much Greek yogurt, but if you really like it, go for it. And that's about it, guys. That's the post-workout meal. It's a pretty simple combination, right? Get plenty of carbs, and if you hit the weights, add protein. Guys, thanks for checking out the post-workout meal podcast of Quick Sessions. Remember, please like and subscribe to us in the Apple Pod Center and on Spotify. And make sure to give us a follow on Instagram to stay updated on all things Quick Sessions Podcast. That's also the handle on Instagram that you can find us at. Thanks, guys. See you later.